If you appreciate our content, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. That will really help us to reach more people. Thank you.
Good morning, and how is everybody doing this morning? Good, thank you. What a wonderful song. Thank you, guys. I've been doing a lot of reflecting on today's topic, the transformative power of gratitude, shaping your life through thankfulness. And I have to realize I have a lot to be grateful for. I published a book, as you guys know, a year and a half ago. I'm getting ready to publish a new book called, thank you, Playing Nicely in the Sandbox. A couple of people are reading them now, and it just came back from the publisher, so I have a little bit of work to do, but not much. Let's see. I just applied for ministerial school, as you heard. I have an amazing place where I get to do counseling and drug addiction, or counseling, peer support, and HIV support. So I have that. I actually have a wonderful place where I can connect with all of you, a community. And this community I am so grateful for, because through your prayers, Jay is here today. He's right over here. Sorry, Jay. He's doing well, and he has one more procedure to do, but please come and say hi to him after the service. So thank you guys for your prayers and your love. Here's something that you may not hear every day. 2 months ago, I just celebrated 20 years of living with HIV. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not grateful for having HIV. But I'm profoundly thankful for the perspective and growth and transformation that experience has given me over the years, because that has led me here today. That's what gratitude means to me. It's not about being thankful for every tough moment. God knows there's been a lot of tough moments, especially in the last year, or even the diagnosis that I've had. It's about recognizing the growth and meaning that has come from it. As Butterworth says, gratitude changes our consciousness. It's a choice that we make when we shape, and it's a choice that we make that shapes how we see life. Choosing gratitude has allowed me to see the light in the hardest times, and has brought me here and closer to my purpose. Here's something I've learned through my own journey. Every single person here, and even on Facebook, and eventually on YouTube, and even me, we have one common desire, and that common desire is we all want to be happy. Right? But there's something else that I discovered, is that happiness and gratitude, they connect in an unusual way, in a way that might surprise you. Most people assume that when you're happy, you naturally feel grateful, but I believe that the opposite is true. Gratefulness is what makes you happy. Think about that for a moment. I've known people who have everything that they possibly would want in their entire life, and yet they're very unhappy. And I've known people who have gone through incredible odds, and somehow they shine with incredible joy. So happiness doesn't make us grateful. It's gratefulness that makes us happy. I've learned this firsthand 20 years ago. As I said, I was diagnosed with HIV. Excuse me. And hepatitis C. Obviously, I was not behaving myself very well. And I certainly was not feeling grateful at the time. But out of that challenging time, I found something to be thankful for. I had my life, I had my medication that was keeping me alive, and giving me a chance to experience life one day at a time. That shift in perspective started to heal me, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. I began to understand that gratitude has the power to transform our entire outlook on life. Gratitude is not just a feeling, it's a choice, a conscious decision to focus on what we would rather we have rather than what we lack. One of my favorite lessons from Eric Butterworth is when you change the way you look at things, the things that you look at change. This quote resonated with me. For years, it reminds me of the transformation power of perception. Back during one of the most challenging times in my life, when I was facing eviction in Seattle, deeply entrenched in my addiction and the verge of losing my job, and unaware of my HIV status, the middle of the struggle, I saw this man on TV, Wayne Dyer. He said, when you change the way you think about the things that you think about will change. At that time, it didn't mean too much at the time, but it planted a seed. That small moment when Wayne's words lingered, taking root quickly as it continued down this dark path, it wasn't immediate, but the seed of perspective eventually began to grow, giving away another way to rethink my life. That one shift in perspective helped me to begin to transform everything, and it's still a powerful reminder of how the smallest shift in our outlook can make the biggest difference. So what does it mean? For years, I lived with fear. I lived with fear and uncertainty. I was afraid of my future. What would my future look like with my diagnosis and somebody who was dealing with addiction? Of how people would react, of whether I would even have a future. But slowly I started to shift my mindset and shift my perspective. I began to replace my fear with curiosity and asking myself, what can I learn from this moment? Instead of the why is this happening to me, that shift changed everything. Both Butterworth's and Dyer's words emphasize how a shift in our perspective has the power to transform our entire experience. Whether we look at a changing of how we look at our things or changing how we think about them, it's about the inner shift that ultimately changes our outer world. Those two quotes are like mirrors to one another, reflecting the profound impact that gratitude and perception can have on our lives. Now, in the book of James, chapter 5, one of my favorite books, it says in verse 14, we hear, is anyone among you sick? Let them come to the elders of the church to pray. Pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. This passage is a beautiful reminder of the power of community, the importance of reaching out, and the strength to find and seek divine support for healing. But there's another element here, an invitation to bring ourselves humbly and openly to a place of gratitude, allowing space for healing to begin. Now, I'm going to share another part of my story, because you know the beginning of the story and you know the end of the story. But this part of the story is difficult. It's one of the most challenging chapters of my life and the reason why I wrote the second book. I wrote my story in many ways, and my story isn't quite unique. We all carry trauma, some of us more than others. And COVID only magnified this reality. Did you know that 13.7% of people relapsed during the pandemic? The reason is because of isolation was a major factor along the uncertainty and the fear 2020 brought. You see, folks, I too was one of the casualties of 2020. For me, that year was a time of intense personal loss. The pandemic left me feeling isolated, anxious, and disconnected from my regular support system. According to 2023 substance abuse addiction statistics, over 37 million people used drugs during that time, used drugs and alcohol. It's a reminder that many struggle with challenges during that same time. In addition to those challenges, I lost my father and found myself suddenly responsible for managing his affairs along with my sister. I also faced the collapse of my business, which is Pure Albuquerque, and tragically the death of my business partner due to his relapse. My father's last days were fought with tension between us, with the frequent reminder of our different political views and his criticisms of my choice, where there was loss and isolation of the time, made it incredibly difficult to stay on a path to recovery. Every time I built to support my journey, everything that I had built was stripped away. And I left to confront the struggles without a community to rely on. It was that summer after my dad passed, I had returned from Spokane, from dealing with my dad's affairs. And I felt like my whole life was spiraling out of control, emotionally and spiritually. My liver bore the brunt of my addiction, and I felt a toll on my relapse, or the relapse weighed down on me. And then something shifted. I just ordered some drugs that day. And it's one of those things, this is 2020, you can go online and you can buy, you pay for it. But my liver was talking. And I was out doing errands, and I saw this man lying on the sidewalk with someone desperately seeking to revive him. In that moment, it was like a message broke through the haze, a reminder of the path that I was on and the dangers that lay ahead. With a renewed resolve, I resisted the urge to numb my pain. Further sought out my doctor, and what happened was I called my doctor, and they told me to come and get a blood test. I did that. I went home. I called my dealer, and I said, I need to cancel my order. Go ahead and keep the money. I went home. I went to the store first, and there was a lady that goes here. Wonderful lady, she told me to take 2 aspirins and call her in the morning. No, I'm just kidding. She loaded me up with a whole bunch of supplements, and by the end of the weekend, I was starting to feel better. My doctor called and gave me some sobering news. My liver enzymes were through the roof. I should have been in the hospital. And imagined if I decided to go ahead with my plan, I probably wouldn't be here today. Soon after that, a few months later, I found myself here, a sense of refuge. I realized I needed a community, and this community was here for me. My mother, Jay, and I started attending, and it became a sanctuary of support and spiritual healing. I needed that. Here I learned about Myrtle Fillmore's journey and her story, along with Unity's teaching. It gave me a renewed sense of direction and hope. Week by week, I took steps to rebuild a support system focusing on self-care, and pursued healing in every aspect of my life. Reflecting on Myrtle's journey, I realized that each of us has the capability to find peace, resilience, and purpose. Even in the most challenging times, her story of healing herself through gratitude and spiritual practice reminds me of the strength we all carry within ourselves. Looking back now, I see the gratitude has become my lifeline during that period. And yes, there was pain, and my physical limitations were constant reminder. But instead of focusing on what was broken, I began to appreciate what was still working. I spoke words of gratitude to my body, thanking my liver, my heart, my lungs, every part of my body that was still alive, and giving me another chance each day. Through this daily practice, I felt a shift, not only in the physical health, but in my emotional and spiritual well-being too. One story that resonates deeply with me about Myrtle Fillmore, if you don't know who she is, she's the co-founder of Unity Spiritual Center. She often prayed every single day for healing, and she would sit with an empty chair next to her, empty for Jesus. She would invite Jesus. It was a sense of divine companionship. Her story is a powerful example of faith in action, showing how gratitude can be true pathways to healing. During the pandemic, Myrtle's story echoed my journey with gratitude, and I went through a challenging period, one where I had to dig deep to find hope and healing. Yet, in embracing gratitude, I began to rediscover both. Today, I'm blessed to do the work I love in my community, leading groups like recovery and HIV support, and meeting people one-on-one where they're at. In this healing power of unity, a place where so many of us are here to lift each other up, our community, you'll find people who teach. So if you are a teacher here, would you please stand? If you are a spiritual care person or serve as a prayer chaplain, please stand. Stay standing. If you practice Reiki or do energy work, please stand. We have social workers here, therapists, peer support workers. If you do that, please stand. If you're a doctor, nurse, herbalist, please stand. And if you're a musician, please stand. This is our shared community. Go ahead and have a seat. This is a place of healing and growth. My first talk, I talked about, when I first came here, finding a place of spiritual healing and growth. I think I found it, right? If you're new to Unity and searching for a supportive place, you'll find that place right here. I'll tell you just another side story. A couple of weeks ago, the men's group celebrated Sukkot. Now, if you don't know what Sukkot is one of three fall feasts. There's Atonement, there's New Year's, and Sukkot. It's one of the harvest feasts, a time of reflection and reflection on impermanence. During Sukkot, people built temporary structures called sukkahs. They lived in that for a whole week, where they would serve food and sing songs and prayers. We didn't get a chance to do that this last time because the wind was blowing, but we used our house. We kind of pretended that, our house is only temporary. This is only temporary, the skin. We're only here temporarily, but this is where God lives. This is a reminder that we're only here for a short time, that life is transient. Gratitude becomes a powerful anchor, allowing us to appreciate each moment and each blessing, no matter how small it is. This practice becomes a reminder to cherish life's fleeting moments, such as hot water, lights, warmth of sunlight on your face, rain that's falling from the sky, a loved one's embrace. These are simple things, but in times of struggle, they hold a profound significance. Sukkot teaches us to appreciate what we have, even if it's temporary, and to embrace gratitude as a way of connecting with life's deeper meanings. I'd like to leave you with this thought. Gratitude opens our consciousness to receive more. God's abundance is always present, but gratitude allows us to see it. I've learned that gratitude isn't about denying our struggles. It's about finding the blessing in the midst of them. It's about seeing life's challenges as opportunities and growth and choosing to respond with thankfulness. Gratitude is a practice, and I'd like to share some techniques that have helped me cultivate that into my life, especially during challenging times. Number one, gratitude. Every day when I wake up, I begin with 3 things that I'm grateful for. A cup of coffee, a cat sitting on my lap purring, sitting outside in nature if I get a chance to, if it's not cold. This practice sets a positive tone and helps me focus on the good things around me. Number 2, gratitude journal. Keeping a gratitude journal has a transformative work, or it's transformative. I write down what I'm thankful for, especially during the hard times. It kind of helps me refocus and grounds me positively. Even if I don't write something down, I'm mentally saying I'm thankful for something. Number 3, shifting my negative thoughts. When I catch myself in a moment of frustration or negativity, I pause, breathe, and pivot. Even if I'm feeling impatient, it's time to stop and breathe. Number 4, community gratitude, sharing gratitude in a group, whether it's through support groups or a community gathering such as this, deepens our connection. By expressing what we're thankful for with others, we're reminded that we're not alone on our journey. Number 5, self-compassion. Lastly, gratitude for ourselves is really important. So even if things are not going well, make sure you have self-compassion for yourself. All right. Practicing gratitude doesn't deny our struggles. It's illuminating the blessing within them. When you choose gratitude, we open ourselves to divine possibilities, allowing the light of God to guide us, even in the darkest moments. You know, I know that there's a lot of craziness that's happening around us. But it's time sometimes it's just good to just take a step back and breathe and focus on the good things and focus on the blessings that we have in our life. You know, I'm not trying to say, be Pollyanna. Life is not like unicorns and lollipops. I wish it was. Just find the blessings in life. That's all I'm asking. I want to say thank you for sharing this time with me today. And I hope each of you leaves with hearts full of gratitude, ready to embrace the small and simple blessings around you. Remember, every moment is a gift, like the water, hot and cold water, the electricity, the embrace of a friend. And through gratitude, we can celebrate each day as a divine offering and what it truly is for each other. Thank you. Namaste.